There's a place in Pennsylvania where the earth itself breathes smoke, where the pavement splits like broken skin, bleeding vapor from wounds no one can quite heal. Where the street signs point to nowhere, the traffic lights blink for ghosts, and the silence hums louder than a crowd ever could. You wouldn't notice it at first, not from the highway. Just another exit off Route 61, just another sleepy patch of old coal country. No children playing, no cars in driveways, just weeds reclaiming cracked sidewalks, rusting mailboxes with no names. And the occasional metal post still standing guard where a front porch once welcomed life. Now, everything is held in a kind of eerie pause, as if the town itself is waiting for someone to come back, or for the last ember to die. A common cleanup before Memorial Day. Just a few tossed flames to burn off the trash routine. Controlled, expected. But below that landfill lay the mouth of an old coal seam. Forgotten, deep, dry as paper. And when the fire reached it, the ground inhaled. A local gas station owner checked his underground tank and found the gasoline inside was hot to the touch. One day, a young boy named Todd Dumboski fell into a sudden hole in his backyard, a cavern that opened beneath his feet like the jaws of the underworld. Nothing worked. The fire had crept too deep, too far. It was no longer a problem to fix. It was now a fate to accept. In 1992, the state invoked eminent domain and condemned the entire town. Most residents were forced to leave. Homes were demolished, streets barricaded. Centralia was removed from maps. Its zip code was revoked. Some said they felt safe. Others spoke of principle. But maybe, just maybe, they understood something the rest of us didn't. That place is more than soil and timber. Its memory, its roots, its story. The only thing that saved him was a tree root. And even then, the steam that rose from that pit, it carried carbon monoxide. The air could kill. But if you take the wrong turn, or maybe the right one, ULL, find yourself in a town that time, fire, and memory tried to erase. Maybe longer, it's hard to know. The veins of coal snake underground like an ancient nervous system, unpredictable, untraceable, and relentless. It's like trying to map the mind of the earth itself. It's called Centralia, or rather it was. Imagine walking into a neighborhood where all the homes are gone, but the streets remain. But here's the thing. There's more to uncover. The fire was only the beginning. Beneath the ashes and silence, something still stirs in. The deeper we dig, the more questions we find. Why hasn't the fire stopped? What exactly is burning beneath? What does it mean to live above something that refuses to die? Whispers of ghostly figures, of flickering lights at night, of animals that behave strangely when they cross the town's invisible boundary. A little smoke here, a warm patch of soil there. The fire was underground, silent, slow-moving, invisible. But it was alive. It was hungry, though now officially closed. It became a kind of canvas, layers upon layers of spray-painted messages. Symbols, strange drawings, and dates left behind by those who wandered in, as if visitors couldn't help but leave their mark, as if the ground demanded to be remembered. Some swear the air hums if you stay quiet long enough. Others say your footsteps sound different. They're hollow, as if echoing through the lungs of a sleeping giant. It fed on anthracite coal, one of the hottest burning forms of fossil fuel on the planet, in Centralia. It sat directly above a vast web of coal veins, subterranean maze rich with fuel that extended for miles in every direction. The fire that started beneath Centralia never stopped burning. It began with something small. Isn't that how most tragedies do? It was 1962, a landfill on the edge of town, and the earth caught fire. At first, no one really noticed. Soon, sinkholes began to open. Strange gases crept up through basements. By the 1980s, it became clear the fire wasn't going out, ever. Experts tried everything: barriers, trenches, chemical foams, even flushing the mines with wet sand and clay. It became a ghost town, but not the kind time leaves behind. This one was consumed by the earth itself, and yet a few people stayed. A handful of residents, stubborn as the fire below them, refused to leave the place they called home. And this story doesn't end here, because the fire beneath Centralia is still burning. And according to some geologists, it could keep going for 250 more. But even stranger than the science is what Centralia became after the world forgot it. a place of pilgrimage, of legends, of whispers. The cracked Route 61 that once led through the town is now known by another name, Graffiti Highway. Of course, not all the stories are factual. They cling to Centralia, like the smoke clings to its soil. But whether those stories are true or just the mind playing with shadows doesn't really matter, because Centralia feels different. And isn't that the real beginning of every mystery? We've only just stepped into it. Stay with me, because the next step takes us deeper, not just into the ground, but into the very nature of what it means to disappear. They say if you walk far enough into the remains of Centralia, the silence begins to shift. It's not that it disappears, it transforms. What once felt empty starts to feel aware, as if the air itself has memory. The trees lean in closer. The smoke rises not just from cracks in the ground, but from something older, something watching. Driveways that go nowhere. Steps leading to phantom front doors. Fire hydrants that haven't seen water in decades. There's a strange kind of beauty in it, this skeletal imprint of a town. It was built on coal and carved by immigrants. Irish, Polish, Ukrainian families who came chasing work and survival. And for over a century, that coal fed fires and furnaces and food on tables. Like finding the fossil of a creature you didn't know existed, frozen mid-breath. But what's most unsettling isn't what's there, and maybe remembering. You can still see the outlines of lives once lived. They're patient, they don't roar, they seep. People started showing up not to live, but to look. Explorers, writers, photographers, some drawn by curiosity, others by something harder to name. It was like it wouldn't leave me alone. Sometimes the fascination turns darker. Over the years, Centralia has attracted urban legends, cult rumors, and stories of people who wandered in and never quite came back the same. Some of these are clearly fiction, but others linger in that uncomfortable space between fact and feeling, the kind of stories that make your spine prickle even if your mind rolls its eyes. It's as if the town became a mirror reflecting not just what was lost, but what's still smoldering deep inside us. The parts we bury, the stories we don't finish. Through soil. A punishment, they said, for greed. Warning not to take more than you need. Of course, there's no proof this legend refers to Centralia specifically, but it echoes too closely to ignore. Through time, through the very bones of the earth, it's what isn't. Not just for the fire itself, but for what came after. It cooks, it creates, but it also consumes. They weren't just holding on to land, they were holding on to story, to memory, to mystery. Build worlds from it, then wonder why they collapse in flame. In winter, certain parts of the ground stay warm and naturally so, a reminder that what looks dead may not be, what seems silent may still be singing. Can't see the flames, not unless you dig, but they're there, always there. And that's what makes this mystery so different from others. In that sense, Centralia isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a reflection of how closely our ambition walks beside destruction, how quickly progress can become ruin. Centralia had churches, schools, homes, businesses, a tight-knit mining town with roots tracing back to the 1800s. Now, it feeds something else entirely, and the question rises like smoke. How could something so alive vanish so completely? Ow. In a strange twist of fate, Centralia isn't the only place this has happened. Underground coal fires are more common than most people realize. There's one in India, in the region of Jharia, where fires have been burning beneath villages for over 100 years, lighting up the night sky like a slow apocalypse. Not the haunting sense that this town was never meant to be reclaimed, that it slipped into a space between worlds, and chose to stay there. In China, entire hillsides smolder invisibly, heating the soil until crops can't grow. And in Australia, Mount Wingan, known as the Burning Mountain, has been on fire for an estimated 6,000 years. These fires aren't wild, but Centralia stands apart, because once the residents left, something odd began to happen. The strange part, some believe the town called to them. You hear it in interviews. I just had to see it for myself. One theory, repeated more than once, is that the fire unearthed something older than coal, something sacred or cursed. There's an old Lenape legend long before the mining and settlers came that speaks of a place where the earth was broken open by fire from within. And isn't that what myths do best? They echo, through history, through culture, through us. Because here's the truth no one likes to admit. There is something deeply human about fire. It warms. And yet, through it all, the fire burns steady. When snow falls on Centralia, it melts in strange patterns. Because it's not just about what is burning, it's about why it keeps burning, and what refuses to die. They've tested the soil, they've mapped the gas emissions, they've monitored the underground temperatures. The science explains the mechanics, but not the persistence. And maybe the people who remain, the last few souls who refuse to leave, understood that in a way science never could. Some places don't want to be solved, they want to be felt. And we've only just scratched the surface. Next, we follow the veins deeper, not just into coal and fire, but into legacy. Into the strange, unspoken thread that ties Centralia to something far bigger than itself. Something ancient, something still burning, beneath all of us. The farther you walk from Centralia's center, the more the world starts to feel normal again. The trees return to their natural rhythm. The soil cools beneath your shoes. Birds sing with less hesitation, but something in you stays behind. It's like soot clinging to your thoughts. You've seen a town that's still alive in all the wrong ways. You've stepped on land that refuses to rest. And now, even as you drive away, you realize some fires follow you. Centralia is quiet now, but not forgotten. And the strangest part of all, it never really disappeared. Look closely at American pop culture, at whispers in games, films, stories, and you'll find the fingerprints. The horror video game Silent Hill, its fog-drenched ash-falling ghost town, inspired directly by Centralia. The filmmakers behind the movie adaptation even visited the ruins while developing the eerie aesthetic. That constant smoke, that isolation, that slow-burning dread, it wasn't fiction. It was a translation, a dream pulled from reality. But sometimes the land answers back, and it doesn't shout. It whispers in smoke. It sings through heat, not even to our own neighbors. As their homes grew hot and their air turned toxic, by the time the world paid attention, the fire had already won. Even the myth itself that a town could vanish, yet become more known than ever before. Isn't that what mysteries do best? It opens up beneath our feet and reminds us we are guests here, temporary, borrowing time. But in some strange way, it may never stop, not because of science, but because of story. As long as people ask about it, visit it, dream of it, the town lives on, not in maps, but in minds. Even now, YouTubers, explorers, and drone hobbyists sneak back into the overgrown streets, recording footage like they're capturing something sacred, and in a way, they are. Centralia has become a modern myth in real time. Not ancient, not buried, not forgotten in some jungle or desert. It's here, living ruin, with steam for breath and silence for speech. And maybe that's why people keep returning. Not for the danger, not even for the curiosity. Look at the smoke rising faintly through the grass. Feel the heat where there should be cold. Remember you're standing not just on history, but for the feeling. Because Centralia is more than coal, more than fire. That beneath the surface of even the most ordinary places, quiet towns, rolling hills, familiar highways, there may be forces at work we cannot tame. Is it just geology and fire, or something more? Have you ever visited? Or do you know of other places like it where nature holds secrets man can't quite explain? Things that do not forget or forgive. Forces of nature and of history. You see, this isn't just a story about a burning town. It's about us, our relationship with the earth, our tendency to dig too deep, to extract, consume, and leave. We call it progress. It helps this community of curious minds grow. In Centralia, the ground cracked because we didn't listen. Not to warnings, not to signs. And yet, there's a kind of poetry in what remains. The resilience of the last few residents. The way the weeds rewild the land. The art that bloomed on broken pavement, it refused to end. Geologists say the fire beneath Centralia could burn for another 250 years. And that's the strange, beautiful truth about mysteries like this one. They don't need answers to matter, they just need to be felt. So if you ever find yourself near Route 61, near the empty hills where Centralia once stood, pause. But on a heartbeat that refuses to stop, because sometimes the earth keeps its memories buried deep. Other times it burns them into the surface. Forever. If you made it this far, Thank you for walking through the smoke with me. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think is really happening beneath Centralia? Leave your theories, thoughts, and strange stories in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you love diving into the mysterious, the forgotten, and the unexplained, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that little bell. Until next time, keep wondering, keep digging, and never stop listening to the places the world tried to forget. They often have the most to say.